In Louisiana, we mean literally across the aisle. He sat right across the aisle from me. It wasn't a political party. Our next speaker hasn't changed positions, I don't think, in the whole time that we've been working on Federal City. She's been a stalwart, working with us, our strongest supporter up in Washington, D.C. She has a nickname down here in Louisiana, and this today proves that nickname true. Ladies and gentlemen, our Senator, U.S. Senior Senator from the state of Louisiana, military, Mary Landrieu.
Thank you, Jeff, so much. And today is such a wonderful day to celebrate and so many people to thank. Many of them have been thanked, but let me just be quick. Governor, I want to acknowledge your leadership and the governors before you that have stood fast behind the very significant amount of federal money, of state money, $150 million plus, that helped to make this possible. And Mr. Mayor, thank you for your leadership of the city and making dreams come true in every neighborhood and every place with your persistence and wonderful vision and great compassion for the people that you lead. And Congressman, it's a pleasure to serve with you in Washington. I've found a real partner in Cedric Richmond. He just doesn't give up easily. He's always thinking ahead of time and is fighting for the institutions that make this region function, and I'm so, so proud of him. And to all the generals that are here, particularly General Mize, for serving here and then continuing to serve when your official tour of duty was up, but believing in this region as a special place for the military and military families. And General Dunford, it's good to see you again. We were together just recently at a ceremony up in Washington. I'll come back to that in just a moment. General Moore, and also Colonel Barnum, who knew personally, I understand, the gentleman, the Marine that this building is being named after, Colonel Joe McCarthy, and we'll hear more about his particular story. And I want to thank Jackie Clarkson, who has been absolutely the #1 cheerleader of all things military, particularly in the West Bank. I have to remind her, as a senator that represents 64 parishes, governor, and 360 towns and communities, that we can't spend every dollar on the West Bank in New Orleans, military dollars in the state, but she doesn't take no for an answer. So we've sent over $50 million plus community development funding here for the school and other aspects. But just briefly, as the senior senator of our delegation, I couldn't be prouder of our delegation when we mobilized, Republican and Democrat, to change a decision that the Federal BRAC Commission had made. And as was mentioned earlier, these decisions are not changed lightly. It took all of our political skill and acumen and an absolute ironclad agreement with the state to reverse something that the federal government had decided and said, no, even though the Navy was leaving, the Marine Reserves were going to stay. And the mayor was absolutely correct. New Orleans and Louisiana can be proud this is the home of the largest contingency of uniformed officers in the Marines today, the Marine Reserves, over 35,000 strong. I just want to share one little story that happened Friday night to tell you what an extraordinary reach the Marine Reserves has. In the oldest Marine barracks that Thomas Jefferson picked out himself from horseback near Capitol Hill, where we celebrated Friday night and honored the Marine Corps Reserves, a very slight brunette came up to me. She looked about 35. She had to be older, but she was quite youthful looking and quite slender. She was about 115 pounds, and she came up to me in her uniform and she shook my hand. She said, "Senator, I understand you're going to be with the Marine Corps Reserve headquarters Monday." She said, "I've had the honor of serving in the reserves for over 20 years. She said, "One thing you might also want to know is that I'm a mother of 8. And she said, "I was able to continue to serve my country and raise my children because the Marine Reserves offered me a job when I finished my first years in the active reserves." She says, "It's been my extraordinary honor," she said, "to serve our country in this way." So I want you to know that the Marine Reserves are full of really amazing heroes, men and women of all different backgrounds and races. that continue even after their active service to continue to serve multiple duties and deployments. And this is their home now. And so for all that our congressional delegation does, I'm proud to lead our efforts to strengthen our military footprint here, not only for our state, but for the men and women, whether they serve in the Navy, the Army, the Air Force, or the Coast Guard, which we're particularly proud of. But because of the work that our delegation has done, every installation in Louisiana, including this one here in Federal City, is not shrinking, but expanding and growing with bigger buildings, stronger buildings, better housing, and having a tremendous economic impact on our state. So I'm happy to be a part of this. I thank all the local officials sitting on the front row that continue to do their part. But this is just the beginning. But it's a great flag that was put in the ground when those Katrina winds were blowing and that water was rising. Nothing was going to stop this flag from rising today. God bless you all. Thank you.